Hi everyone. Okay, so it seems to be working. Hope all is good for you guys. I just got a new microphone, so hopefully you're finally able to hear me properly. So in today's live stream, I'm going to show you guys the difference between making an illustration for comic books versus animation, because each medium has different restrictions. So here I'm gonna start off with the line art. I've already done the sketch just so that this goes a bit quicker. And I'm gonna start doing the line art. Yep, my cat here, Susie. No, don't bang the microphone. It's hanging above my head, so it's something new for her to play with. Hello, Kay. How's it going? Honey, can you please take the mischievous cat? I forgot to kick her out. Okay. So, let's see. Hope you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if it's too soft. I try and speak a little bit more loudly. I'm not a loudspeaker myself, so I gotta constantly remember to speak with my whole mouth, not just a bit of it. Yeah, you can hear me fine. Awesome. I'm always worried that I'm not speaking loud enough. So right now I'm just gonna turn off the grid just so I can not have it snatch my brush. So in order to do that, that is Control H. So I press Control H and it's gone. And now I'm going to my sketch layer and I'm gonna make a new layer and call it line art body. And we're gonna do it on several layers just so we can play around with the color of the line art, so I can show you some differences. So I am at the moment using Photoshop. Next courses I'm gonna be showing you in Clip Studio Paint. I've finally managed to get the dual monitors working in Clip Studio Paint. That has been an issue apparently with the graphics card, which is kind of weird. I have very powerful graphics cards, but I guess Clip Studio Paint just didn't want to work with the one I had before. Very annoying. I'll also probably be posting an update video on that, show how I fixed that issue, because for the previous video I kind of had like this half-assed compromise of a solution, and so I will be updating with an actual fix, because a lot of us illustrators do need two monitors for various reasons. Personally, I need it for live streams, but also it's good to have like a reference image on a second screen, or just have something playing like a podcast in the background. So this is how the line art is looking so far. Just connecting these. I'm kind of trying to scoot my chair a bit, so I'm still close to the microphone, but also I can see what I'm doing. I'll probably find a different setup for it. At the moment, my new microphone is hanging from a shelf Unfortunately, you guys cannot see how awkwardly I'm standing. I've never had a microphone that's hanging off the top of my head, but uh, it would be better than if it was like between my hands, since I need them to illustrate. I usually had a microphone from my headphones, but as you've seen, there are limitations to that, especially the way I speak. I don't talk loud enough. So this one's a bit more of a powerful microphone, and I hope the audio quality is better. So at the moment, I'm just not fiddling too much. It does have pen pressure, so I am using a pen tablet. I have my old trusty Wacom going on, I guess, 7 years. It is a Wacom Intus Pro. It's still working. I haven't had any issues with it. Like, the top layer of plastic is no longer has that papery texture, and sadly you cannot replace that. Like, the plastic is embedded and there's no other way to change that. A bit of a flawed design in my opinion, that you can't take the top layer of plastic yourself and put another one, because I really did enjoy that texture that it had initially, because it felt like paper. And also I got brush tips for my stylus, so that is that plastic pen-like thing that you use to illustrate. That is called a stylus. And I had them to simulate the lead in a pencil. So it kind of felt like you were drawing with a pencil on paper, and it was great, and that lasted me a year. Because I do use it a lot. I do illustrate a lot, so that didn't take me long to erode it. And that was the end of that, sadly. Okay, so checking the sketch. You can reduce the opacity just so you can see better what you're doing. That is actually recommended to do. There we go. So I've done most of the head. I'm gonna do the bottom, the jaw. And doing the little, oops, wrong layer. Story of my life. Keep drawing on the wrong layer. And there we go. If I could have a steady hand. I definitely should not become a surgeon. This. So in Clip Studio Paint, you do have the option of just having a vector line art with brush pen pressure, so it does take that into account. And you have way better control. It also has a stabilizer function in it, which Photoshop still doesn't have, and I'm very annoyed with Photoshop that it refuses to implement this. It's not like it's something beyond their capacity. They just are meanies and they're asking for a lot of money. But the reason I'm showing you this in Photoshop as opposed to another program that is free like Krita and so on is because it's still an industry standard, and many workplaces require you to know Photoshop, so that's why I am also showing you the menus and the options and things like that. And another thing to remember is Control S, and you save with that. As an illustrator, you're just gonna have this become a tick. Every time you draw a line, you hit Control S. I've been doing this so much to the point that when I finish cutting vegetables or cooking something, I feel the need to press Control S as if the food is gonna get lost or something like that. There we go. the other leg, and his little toenails. There we go. And we can use the eraser to kind of trim some of the stuff if you erase too much. So at the moment I am drawing a raster. You can do this with vector as well. And the vector options in Photoshop are not great. So that's why I'm just using it for illustration purposes. Photoshop does have some things that other programs do not, that are very useful, like the layer styles, they call it. I'll show you in a bit once we get to that part. So in order to undo when I draw a line incorrectly, I press Control Z, I think. Yeah. I've been doing it for so long, I have to think what I'm doing. I didn't remember exactly, but I've been drawing since 16 years. I'm going on 16 years now. Yeah. I kind of early on learned to use the keyboard shortcuts just because they're so useful. I definitely recommend you learn them as well. So let me press that. Let me write that just quickly so you have it as well. Control Z. So return to the line art layer. Be sure I am drawing on the right layer. I don't want to be drawing on the wrong layer, because then you have to move your stuff. And sometimes you can't do that because you have to cut it up. And it can get a bit tricky and frustrating. I wouldn't say lose hope, like when you do something wrong like that. It's all easily fixable in digital. So don't panic too much. So the Niels Feynman comic book that I've made with the help of my friend June Fender, who is also a graphic artist and an illustrator, graphic designer and illustrator. These both fall under the mantle of graphic artist. So if you're looking for job openings or things like that, those are kind of the keywords to look for when searching. Let's see, was more of a straight line? Yeah, he doesn't have a bit of that tushy line there. I'm gonna need to draw something straighter. There we go. Flat butt. And we initially used Photoshop to make our illustrations, to make the comic book pages, but then I quickly switched to Clip Studio Paint just because of the vector line art feature. And I did not do the line like I should have. There we go. Better. And now to double check the squares, actually pentagons, spots, they're spots, he has spots. I'm not sure if Ivysaur is a reptile, a plant, or an amphibian. I've seen artist renderings where he was depicted more as a frog-like creature, so let me know in the comments If you know what Ivysaur actually is, aside from a fantastical creature, but um, do you remember they have some kind of taxonomy for Pokemon? Taxonomy in real life is um, just how you categorize living creatures. So humans are mammals, ostriches are birds, things like that. And they have like families that they're in. So humans are primates, cats are in the feline group, and dogs are in the canine. And they're all in the mammalian group, so you kind of have like this family tree. And let's see, I have like a big spot right there underneath, so I'm gonna go in and put that. Let me see. There we go. And to zoom in and out, I am using Alt and mouse wheel. So let's take out the sketch layer just to see. So the body is done. I have to do now the leaves and the plant thingy, flower, I guess. So let me make another layer. You can do that with Control N or just press down below, and I'm gonna rename it to leaves. It's always a good idea to name your layers so you don't forget what you're doing. And what you're working on, if you need to find something that you don't need to scroll too much and press too much to find it. Of course, in Photoshop you do have the feature of click to select either a layer or a group, which is a very useful feature. I wish more free programs had that. I've come across free art programs that didn't even have layers, which was just bizarre to me. Having layers is such a useful feature. I think all art programs should have it. So when you are looking for an art program that is free, if you are underage and can purchase it and are on a tight budget, things that you should definitely be on the lookout for are that it has the capability to make layers, to save as a PNG or a file, and I guess to have RGB and CMYK color, what is it called in English, profiles, because you'll see that is very important to have when you're working on print versus digital. And we'll get to those technical parts more toward the end. This has more to do once if you're, employed, but also for school projects, like if, you want to do a poster for your school for something or an event. This is something that you need to keep your eye on if you're printing at home, but especially if you're using a printing company. They're gonna ask you to give them the file that is CMYK. Y. I think in English you call it a Y. Yeah. There we go. And almost finishing the leaves on this one. I'm a bit confused as to that last bit. Oh, okay. So this is the other leaf kind of peeking through. So this, I think, is an official rendering, but is not from the animated version. So as you can see here, this is the animated version. The shading is different, and also the lighting and the color palette is a bit different compared to this version. And we'll get into those technical aspects later on once we get to the coloring phase. At the moment, I just want to draw the line art. Wow, what a nice straight curved line I did. Miracles do happen. Come on, I didn't before, I can do it again. Close enough. There are plenty of memes online about drawing legs and just straight lines like this. It can be a bit of a pain. Okay, and do the leaves around the head. Okay. Just trying to remember what I did here because I drew so many lines. In order to get more straight lines, you kind of have to go a bit further sometimes. And just kind of go to the intersection of that. And just keep an eye on the right intersection. Thank you, glad you're enjoying it. As always, you can suggest to me what I should do next. I always love hearing from you guys as to what are your needs and wants out of these tutorials. Again, for those that don't know, this was sponsored by Team Mana Up and Tsubasa Coast. Thank you so much. Also, with the extra little money, I got the fancy new microphone, so that's nice. Thank you. I'm trying to remember how that pointy leaf there is supposed to go. Something square. Maybe this was it. Close enough. Luckily, I don't work for the Pokemon company, which is, I think, owned by... Is it Sony? No, who owns Pokemon? I don't know. Thank you, yes. I've always liked the Eeveesaur. I like plant Pokemons just because I really enjoy gardening. I'm also glad that now Eevee, the Pokemon, turns into a plant. Back in my day when I was in primary school, Eevee turned into Vaporeon and the flamey one. And kind of that was it. Like fire, water, and... Oh, Umbreon. Yeah. And that was kind of it. So now Eevee can turn into more stuff, so I think it makes it more interesting. I don't know if other Pokemons you can like feed them special mojo beans and they turn into different elements. Oh, Nintendo. Okay, yes, Nintendo. I'm surprised it's not owned by Disney at this point. If I wake up one day and I find out that Pokemon is owned by Disney, I'll be like, it was expected. Leafeon. Yes, Leafeon is very cute. For this project, I came across some very nice fan art of Leafeon, so maybe we'll include that in another tutorial. bulb. Bulb. Line art. There we go. And I think now fairy Pokemons are a thing. They were not when I was a kid. Which I think they're pretty cute. Bit too much pink for my taste, but I know they're very popular and a lot of people like them, so I'm happy for them. There we go, and that's kind of it, I guess. Oh, there's an extra little line there. And we're done with the line art. And we can turn off the sketch layer. So this is kind of how the line art looks. Pretty basic. Usually for animation you would draw it even thinner than this. And in Clip Studio Paint you can adjust the vector line art after you've illustrated it, so that's pretty neat. You cannot do this if it's raster, so you have to be careful with that. And now let's see, how are we going to color this, because there seems to be a lot of versions online, and I'm not just talking about the fan art, although this is very cute. I kind of prefer this cuter design. And as you can see, the difference is that the mouth is smaller. Usually to make something cute, you make the eyes big and the mouth small. So maybe we will change a bit of the design for you, Sword. Let me know in the comments below. Do you want it cutified or leave it as the original? And here I have a screenshot from the animation. And this is kind of more of the definitive version for me. I mean, if you're playing the video game 3D version or any other one, you're gonna have different color palettes. If you are working in a company and you have to draw a character, they should give you the character sheet with the hexa code, and that will be the official colors that you must use regardless of your personal preferences. For example, when I worked for a company that fixed animations for Nickelodeon, and I think Tom and Jerry was from Warner's and things like that. Oh, and Dora the Explorer, yeah, that was at Nickelodeon. They would give us all of this information within the contract, and you would have to do it exactly like that. And also the animation, like if you had like more simple basic animation, you couldn't improve it, make it better. And it wasn't just a style thing, it was a copyright issue. Like the copyright laws can be very restrictive and crazy. But for the scope of this tutorial, I'm not gonna go into that, since this series is gonna focus more on a younger audience. So employment and laws and things like that will be less of a concern for you. Although it is something that you should be aware of, like laws and what you can do and can't, what you can and can't do, like naming, creating characters. For example, if you like something and you make something derivative of that, if it's too similar, you can get into trouble. Posting on social media, generally you're allowed to do parodies and things like that, but if you are on art websites, it depends on the terms and services of that website. They might not even allow underage people there. And then the payment options can vary. Like for example, You're doing mods for a game that you like and you're underage and you do it on Nexus Mods. You can opt in to get payment for the downloads, but only I think if you're over 18. If you're under, you cannot. And then whatever mods that you're doing, let's say you want to put a Pokemon farm animal in Stardew Valley. That is generally allowed, but for example, Harry Potter, which is owned by Warner Brothers, they're more strict, and you might get your mod taken down, even if you're not getting paid, like you have not opted into that. Disney is also known for coming after modders, so hey June, how are you? Long time no see. How have you been? So right now I'm gonna start coloring and I'm gonna do a base color. That is what is called base color, and I'm gonna name the layer base color body. And let me just select. And fill that in. Oops. Inverse select. There we go. So at the moment I'm filling in with the colors. Oh, oops, I colored in the wrong layer. As usual. Gotta go to the base body. There we go. And gotta do the nails. Yes, I'm very happy to see you guys again, and hopefully this tutorial will come out pretty good for the kiddos as well. I know also a lot of people watch this after it's streamed, because also YouTube and social media are a pain and don't really notify people. I'm personally subscribed to a lot of channels that have either scheduled videos or they do live streams, and I rarely get the notifications, even though I select that I want every notification for that. I'll get it like way after it's done. My brain is sleepy. Yes, it's quite early for you, and for Asia it's quite late. This is though a pretty good time for most people on the planet. Kind of Europe is in the middle time zone wise. I guess I'm glad we invented the clock. Well, like the time zone authority is in Europe with the Greenwich, huh? Yeah, Greenwich. Greenwich kind of sounds like a little bug that will do something like eat your plants. The Greenwich strikes again. Although I think it's Greenwich. Greenwich. Greenwich, Green Goblin. Greenwich Meantime. Kind of sounds like a Batman supervillain as well. Hmm. Oh, I remember there was that cartoon Witch when I was a teenager. It was on what, Nickelodeon cartoon? I don't remember. It was like this diverse cast of superpowered girls. Um, it was really fun. I enjoyed it. For a corporate made, I think that was one of the first secretly corporate made fake indie writer that The Simpsons made fun of. Like it was actually made by a corporate boardroom, but uh, it was pretty fun. Like I enjoyed it. It was one of the better corporate products. But I do remember that episode with The Simpsons where Lisa is the front girl. Like she wrote the some story, and it was actually about 8 dudes that were writing the story, and she was just pretending to be the one that wrote the story about the princess warrior. I haven't watched Simpsons in a long time either. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the leaves. Should have named this leaves, ink, and I'm gonna make a new layer. Leaves, color. Always name your layers and remember which is which. And don't get them mixed up. Because you might not be able to select it. And I think that because I did not there we go, I did not connect these two, I'm gonna have leaky colors. So in Photoshop you kind of need to join these. It's not like in Clip Studio Paint where it detects multiple layers and takes from that. So I'm selecting the ink layer for the leaves and just connecting that, and now I can fill it in. And I'm using the wand tool to select the shape, and then I'm going to my color layer, and let's see, I'm gonna have some kind of green here, and boom, colored that. Turn on the body, and we have it colored. And as you can see, it didn't get in those crevices there. Like the detection in Photoshop is not great. Obviously, what you can do to mitigate this issue is work at a higher resolution than I am, and then these defects just get smaller. So at the moment I am, let me show you display capture. Okay, so as you can see here, it shows me the sizes, and I can select what measuring system I want. So it's only 1920 by 1080 pixels, which is not huge. Also, when you're working, at least at the companies that I used to work with, if you had something to do for an app or a cartoon or something like that, if it was raster, you would just make it twice the resolution that the final product was requested in. Often you might need to scale up, or just to have some changes here and there, or zooms in, or something that wasn't anticipated before the project stats were given to you, like the obligation that you have as a graphic artist to make it at certain resolutions and things like that. You would just kind of, when it was raster, just do it bigger. Because the client would often like come up with something and you'd be like, well, this is all the resolution I have no more to give. And that is a limitation when working in raster. That's why I've always recommended, for simple basic art, flat stuff, just go vector and not worry about this issue. So let me just turn this back off. There we go. Because you see, when you zoom out, you don't see the issue, but if you go in, let's say I turn, see it bleeds in, it doesn't kind of go completely. And what you can do is kind of go in like this and just tweak that, and depends how much time you have, like how much you're getting paid, like what's the quality of work you have to do. And the quality that you're willing to offer. And yeah, you can use other programs that have like a better selection detection thingy algorithm. But then maybe those programs don't have certain features that you're currently using in this other program. And what is the fastest, easiest way for you to work with if you have to put out a lot of content for very little money? You kind of have to make choices. But if these are not restrictions for you and you want to do your best, also if you want to do something for your portfolio, if you're starting out as a little artist, yeah, then going in like this and fixing stuff might be something that you need to do. Depending on what program you're using and what restrictions and limitations that one has. And now I'm gonna go and do the bulb color. And this one's kind of simple. I can just, put this in the back. There we go. What's the first program that you have ever used for illustration? For me, it was straight out Photoshop, unless you count maybe Windows Paint, which I don't remember ever using, but I guess it must have been that. I started off with Photoshop Elements just because it came with my tablet. So the first tablet I ever got was also a Wacom, because back in the day the only commercial international seller for pen tablets was Wacom. Like there was no other option. Wacom is a Japanese company, and I got my tablet from a friend that lived in the US. I am in Romania, and when he came to visit family, he brought a tablet that my dad bought for me for my 18th anniversary, I think, if I remember correctly. Was it that color? It's this other color. There we go. So we finished coloring. So what you have to have in mind when you are doing illustrations for animation versus comics is that comics are a real world medium, so you have color restrictions. And let me just turn this bit off here. And text, where are you? I'm gonna, there we go. And I'm gonna put my entire Evisaur into one folder, Control G for that. And let's see, okay. And I'm gonna duplicate it. What you thought? You know what? When I was little, I only got The Simpsons on ProSieben, which is a German channel, and my whole childhood I thought that The Simpsons was a German cartoon, and I was surprised to find out that it was American because, you know, Germans dub everything, and I was getting The Simpsons in German as a child, so I thought it was a German cartoon. So let me just erase this information here for you guys. I hope you wrote it down. Otherwise, you can just go back and see the keyboard shortcuts. So for comic books, often they're gonna be black and white, so that is one thing. But if the comic is color, then there are things that you can do in comic that might be too expensive in animation. So for one thing, you can have colored line art, and in Photoshop you go down here to let me put the bigger view so you can see it. So effects, color overlay, there we go. Let me put it, there we go, so you can kind of see the difference. And you can have a color line art, and it's pretty easy to do. There we go. You just have an effect placed on it. It's a bit more tricky to get into Clip Studio Paint for this, but it's doable. Now for animation, it depends how it's done. For example, if it's hand-drawn, just all of the details here on the head would have to be drawn every frame, and it is a pain. So often you want like the most simple kind of detailing for an animation, so the simpler it is to draw, the better. Also, as you can see in the original, they don't have that little light in the eye, but it does have a shading, so I think it's an interesting choice that they wanted to make both Ivysaur a bit creepy. As you can see, just by adding a little bit of light in the eyes, it makes them just so much more likable. If I can get the right layer. So it makes them a lot more personable if you have the lighting in the eyes. And of course, like I said before, just having, as you can see here, it has a little bit of light in the eyes and looks so much better with it. Also, the smaller mouth makes him look less creepy. But depends like what the personality of the character you want to go for, and how much effort you want to put into that, like add extra lighting in the eyes and on the body. As you can see here in the cartoon, it does have some light on the body. It makes him look shiny, and it kind of makes him look like a frog. And I guess that's where all the frog interpretations come up with, drawing. There are realistic renderings from fans of this Pokemon, and they kind of chose to turn him into a frog as opposed to a lizard, which I think it is initially. But let's get into the shading. So I'm gonna name this layer shading. And what you can do is choose, I personally prefer to kind of have like a purplish color, desaturated purple, kind of going more on an indigo navy. For the shadow, and then I set it to multiply. And then I usually go for an 80, but we can do differently. So let me select the layer for the base color, and I'm just gonna go with the color that I've set for myself and just do the shading. And I use the eraser to get rid of like the extra stuff. And let's go back to our reference, which is here somewhere. There we go. It's always good to keep the reference on hand just so you know what you're supposed to be doing. So again, let me just write here saturated navy. No, it's indigo, sorry. Indigo. Navy is a bit colder. Multiply. Apply. Blending. Mode. 80%. And let's kind of go and do the rest of it. Rest of the body. So kind of goes, oops. There we go. So I have and 80% might be too much. Let's play around with it to a 60. And I kind of don't like how it looks based on the reference image, so I'm going to make my own version. I kind of think it doesn't need that big of a shadow on the mouth. And actually we should look like the animated version reference. Let's just check that out. That is the best way to go. So it doesn't have at all on the mouth, so I'm just gonna erase that, and I think it looks better without it. As you can see, it has here on the tummy. And this isn't the best shading either. They probably didn't have the resources to do a very good one, accurate. Probably the budget wasn't that great. Like you should have some lighting coming here on the foot. So it would be something like this actually, and that would be something extra to animate. That would look more accurate, but they didn't do that. They just kept the back feet on a permanent shade, and that was that. So again, budget is a very real restriction when animating. That's why you have such beautiful animations in the 80s and 90s. There was kind of like this boom for 2D animation, but also like the industry and the economy of the countries that were producing most of these animations, meaning Japan and USA, were doing well. So there was more money going around for more risky projects. And that kind of dried up after. So that is some shading that you can do. And let me go to the leaves. And again, I'll have shading leaves. And we set 60% opacity and set it to multiply. And I'm using Control click mouse to set up the oops, I should have kept the color that I've chosen. So if you forgot what color exactly you chose, you can just turn this to normal and 100% and select with the eyedropper. And I'm just gonna put the color here just so I have it on hand. And put the shading back to multiply and 60%. And go to my leaves. And just have it there quickly. And kind of looking at the reference, it has on the lower part, the animation has no shading on the leaves. Again, animating the shading is extra work, so they often avoid doing that. As you can see on the character's legs as well, there's not any shading on the pants and so on. As you can see, like they didn't do that. So for animation, you're generally gonna have as little shading as possible and just have like pretty flat colors. For comics as well, again, it depends on the budget, but you can go for more textured stuff. So let me have like shading layer, again, multiply and 80%, and then you can go with like more fancy-ish brushes. And let's see, and have it 60%. So animating a textured brush would be kind of a nightmare. So that's why it's generally not done. But you can definitely kind of do more interesting shading. And use the eraser. Also, you can go with more of a different hardness. Like you can have a very soft brush, something like this. And you will see often in, especially in Marvel comics, like they have like a lot of gradients. It's all very soft shadows for the colored shadows, but then they also still have that dark black shading. And it's just because for comic you can do certain things that you can't for animation just because it is too much work. Of course, now since we have digital animation, a lot of things are easier to do in both, but if you're still doing that hand-drawn, that has like that special kind of 2D hand-drawn characteristic, then you kind of need to limit how much work you're making for yourself. Hey, hi, welcome. And again for the leaves. And I can select the head here and then go to the shading layer and erase that extra. So you can do it with multiple layers or just one layer. Depends how you want to work it. And let me just correct this. %60 in the end. And for comics, you can add like an extra layer of highlights. That will be extra work for you if you're animating to do that. And let's just reduce the hardness. And maybe I'll put the blending mode for screen and try a sort of a light color. And again, I'll put it to maybe 40%. Just have lighting on my character, on the leaves, on the bulb. Hey, good morning. Morning. So, since this is the end of the stream, I'm just gonna go over the conclusions. So, first of all, it's very important to remember the RGB and CMYK discussion we had. So let me just reset. erase this here just so I have room to write for you guys. There we go. So for comic book, you have to be sure to have CYK color profile for print. So let me just put this here. And oh, I'm getting an error in Photoshop. There we go. Okay, and for animation, you can have RGB. So the difference between print and RGB is that in RGB you can have more colors that you cannot have in print. So let me just make an example for you of colors that you cannot have in CMYK. So like these really bright colors. So this is called cyan, and we also have magenta. And let me put yellow for you as well to see. So the C in CMYK stands for cyan, M stands for magenta, Y stands for yellow. Now when you switch the color profile to CMYK, you can see that the colors are dulled out. So I press Ctrl Y on my keyboard, and all of a sudden my colors are now faded, and that is because you cannot have these colors in print. It is a physical limitation, and that's why you have to be careful. The things that you can do color-wise in animation, you cannot do for comics, so you have to be careful. And if you want to keep your characters consistent from comic to animation, you have to, from the get-go, make a design for your characters that make sure they have these restrictions into consideration, because otherwise your comic book is gonna look very dull compared to the animation if you have such colors. Also, looking at a cartoon with such bright colors might hurt your eyes if you're looking too long at it. So anyway, you should avoid like really bright colors like these regardless. So again, you can see the difference. Let me just do a little print screen. Control Shift S for print screen. And now you can have them side by side, just so you see. No worries, you can watch the recording later on. So again, you can do more faded shadows for the comic version as opposed to the animation. In animation, it's a good idea to have a more sharp shading option, just because in most programs it's easier to animate when it's like that and just have as little detail as possible on the characters. Also, colored line art for animation is extra work often enough. Depends again what program you're using, what style of animation, if it's 2D or 3D. If you're using, like for example, After Effects, and you're using the puppet tool. When you're using the puppet tool, you already have the art and you're just kind of moving it like a puppet. The animation that you can do in After Effects from Adobe is fairly limited. The Ghibli Studio animation is done by hand in a program similar to Clip Studio Paint and Photoshop, where you do it frame by frame, each of them. So when you're doing that much work by hand, for example, Studio Mir as well, that did Avatar: The Last Airbender series and Legend of Korra, Those were mostly drawn by hand on a computer, but still is by hand. So that's why you have those rather sharp shading style. Meanwhile, for comic, you can do certain things that are easier to do because you don't have to move the character as you've drawn it. You can leave him like that. So you can do colored line art and like faded, less sharp shadows because it's not that much of an extra effort for you to do that. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. Oops, I forgot to erase this for digital. I left their print. There we go. Corrected that oopsie. So yeah, Hisame is for print, and you can have RGB for the digital. It is for digital. Yep, so thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below and I'll get to you, as well as let me know what you would like for future tutorials and what other topics you would like me to cover for you guys. Thank you, you too. Take care. Bye bye.